Tribe, Book 2, Todd Mills Mystery. Author, R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher, Scrib Pub, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 10. Numb with shock, Todd stared at the front bumper of a Cherokee stuck deep in the snow. Wow. That was close. No shit. Janice said, I can't believe you didn't smash into that car. Thank God there wasn't anyone up here on the sidewalk. I would have plowed right into them. Todd turned to Janice. Are you sure you're all right? Not even a bruise? Nothing. As the snow blew all around her, the shivering Janice moaned. Just cold. I'll check things out. Why don't you get back in? But, Janice, the engine's still on and the heater's going full blast. You're cold and I'm not. Knowing exactly what was going through her head, Todd added, just let me take care of this. Okay, you be the hunk. Right, he countered. And you be the babe and get back in the car before you freeze. As she went around the other side of the Cherokee and climbed in, Todd walked slowly around his vehicle, shocked at how close they'd come to a major accident. Somehow he'd avoided sliding into the other vehicle, and yet that stupid other car, the Mazda, hadn't even stopped. Perhaps the driver hadn't realized how close he'd come to being smashed. Shaking his head, Todd examined the fenders. When he couldn't find a single nick, he bent over, studied the front tires. No apparent problems there, even though he'd flown over the curb at such a good clip. At first he might need an alignment. At best, he might only need a car wash. Behind the steering wheel, a few moments later, he plunged the stick shaft into reverse and said to Janice, well, let's see if the Butchmobile will live up to its name. He gave it some gas and the vehicle tugged at the snow that was gripping the front bumper. Todd released the gas pedal and pressed on the clutch, thereby letting the Cherokee roll forward. Then he pressed down again on the accelerator and the car pulled backward. He continued the rocking for another few seconds, and then in a burst, the four-wheel drive vehicle was free. Much too quickly, the Jeep shot across the sidewalk and dropped its rear tires onto the street. Todd braked, checked for traffic, then backed onto the street. So far so good, he said as he put the car into first gear and drove off. Just get me home, said Janice, slumped against her door. Todd drove through uptown, a busy shopping district, now deserted, and all the way south to 36th Street, where he turned left at the cemetery. Michael was in there, buried in the Gracewood plot. Todd had bought his body now sealed in the earth by the frozen earth. It was still hard to imagine that he was gone, that Todd would never speak to him, never hear his laugh, never hold him in his arms again. He saw Michael's image, his dark brown hair, his mustache, his cute face, always eager with a smile. Would those 4 years of their relationship, albeit closeted, prove to be the best of Todd's life? Perhaps. A pity he hadn't realized and appreciated at the time, and it was no wonder he'd been taking it slow with Rollins. If it did get truly serious, Todd didn't want to make any of the same mistakes. Todd drove in silence through the storm. Neither he nor Janice said another word as they continued through the snow and down the slick streets toward Minnehaha Creek. When they finally crossed the frozen stream and turned left, Janice's brightly lit house shone on the hill. As much as I love Jeff, began Janice, I don't want to get into any of this with him. He's going to want to linger, but I don't want to talk about the baby until he's gone. Sure, whatever, replied Todd, parking behind Jeff's snow-covered car. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Todd stared up at the large arching windows and glimpsed a figure whooshing across the living room. Oh, brother, what was Jeff up to? A bank teller by day, the drag queen in him erupted when the sun went down, and the music came up, and then, by God, you had to look out for a 230-pound gay guy in Spike Hills who thought he was the all-in-one Judy Barber Tina. So what was he up to tonight, or rather, who? Todd grabbed their boxed food from the rear seat and followed Janice over a snowbank and up her snowy front walk. By the time they reached the front door on the side of the house, they were both covered with downy flakes. As she took out her key, Janice peered in a side window. Seems pretty quiet to me. Yeah, I don't hear any music. Maybe the baby's asleep. Wouldn't that be great? She unlocked the front door, stepped in, stomped her boots, and softly called, "Jeff!" With a grin, Todd said, "I feel like Warden June coming home from the club." Paying him no attention, Janice moved toward the living room and again called, "Jeff, we're home. Hello?" There was no response, the house offering nothing except silence. For a moment, Todd wondered if something was wrong, a shot of fear dousing his heart. He followed Janice, passing from the entry hall, stepping down one stair and into the large living room, and there sat Jeff, the baby Ripka cradled in his arms. "Shh," he hissed. "She only just went to sleep." Janice unbuttoned her wool coat, dropped it on a chair, and zeroed in on the baby, hurrying across the living room as if she hadn't seen the child in months. She eased herself onto the couch next to Jeff and carefully lifted the baby from his arms. "Hello, gorgeous," she whispered, cradling her, and then turning to Jeff. "Did you feed her? How about the diaper? Did you change it?" "Yes, and yes." His voice hushed. Jeff added, "The baby Ripka was perfect. But why are you two home so early? I didn't expect you for at least another hour." "What's the matter? Ya queers didn't have a fight, did you?" "Of course not," said Todd as he set their food on a table. "The restaurant was just so crowded we couldn't talk." "Oh, so does that mean you two have come home to gossip? About whom? I'm all ears." Janice said, "Jeff." "Really, no problemo. I can stay the whole night. In fact, I'm going to have to. I've got rear-wheel drive, and there's no way I'll be able to drive in all this snow." He mimicked his best Minnesota accent, his voice as nasal as possible. "Oh, for fun, a sleepover." Todd saw the look of despair on Janice's face. Yes, she needed to talk, but she wasn't going to divulge a thing while Jeff was here. Todd slipped on his gloves again, saying, "Come on, Jeff. Time to take the babysitter home." Jeff opened his mouth, was about to protest, and took a look at Janice and replied, Okay, I get it when I'm not wanted. But just remember, I want a full report later." "You're a doll," said Janice. "Of course I am." Then he puckered his lips and leaned toward Janice. "Kiss, kiss." "Good night." Todd buttoned up his coat and said to Janice, "I'll be back in a few minutes." After all, Jeff lived less than a half-mile away. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.